We're going to talk now about crafting impactful social media campaigns. So the first step is to understand our campaign objectives and our target audience. The first step, defining campaign goals and objectives. What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to raise brand awareness? Are you trying to drive website traffic? Generate leads? Increase sales or fundraising efforts? That will help determine how you are operating within the social media to achieve those goals. The second step is to identify your target audience demographics and interests. And I mentioned that earlier that Facebook in an earlier session has targeted demographics. So if you understand who your end user is, you're better able to reach that particular audience in not only the way that you speak, but targeted marketing efforts. So how do you figure out who your target audience is? First, conduct market research. If you're working with a nonprofit, for example, we'll use her example of with women, your target audience for your client using your services would fall within that particular demographic, and you can use existing clients as a model for that. You also have to identify who cares about women's issues. Who are you going to target for your fundraising efforts and your advocacy work? Because that may be a different person than your end user. You can use audience insight tools on Facebook to determine your audience and who is engaging with your content. You can also look at followers from similar organizations. So for example, with dog rescue, I could look at followers for other Instagram accounts and try to engage and connect with them as well, because they already support a similar organization. One of the things we do when we identify our target audience is we create a buyer persona, or your end user, your client. Who are you trying to engage with? And this should be very specific so that you can write to that specific person. Different audiences you write to differently. For example, if I'm trying to attract the attention of a teen, my social media marketing is going to be in TikTok, because that's what they're using the most. And the language that I use is very different than the language that I'm using to present today. It's much more casual. I might use slang. I might use some abbreviations and acronyms that they usually use in my presentation. So you find your demographics, very specific. I'll use one of my programs, for example, for my fitness business. My demographics are women from 35 to 54. They're married. They have at least a part-time job outside the home. They have some disposable income, so their family income is over $100,000 a year. They have children, but their children are most likely school age, but still live at home. And they love animals. Maybe they have challenges with their health, specifically because I specialize in autoimmune disease and perimenopause and menopause. They might have one of those conditions. So I've outlined who this person is, and because I know that person, I can better write to her pain points in my writing. I can write to her in a way that she can relate to my message. So we also want to identify their goals, their challenges, again, their pain points. A mom with kids and works part-time outside the home has lots of responsibilities. So knowing that when I'm writing my posts, she can relate to anything that I talk about related to prioritizing life, managing life. What are their motivations? My client in that particular example is not trying to be a Sports Illustrated model, but they might want to feel more confident on date night, or they're getting ready for a trip to the beach and they want to feel good in their bathing suit. We also need to know their preferred communication channel because, as we discussed earlier, that's how we are going to reach out to them. If they're not on Instagram, then Instagram's not the platform I want to spend my time and effort. Then we can monitor our social media conversations and see who's engaging with us and try to connect with them. You can also engage in audience surveys and feedback. So you can survey or send out a poll to existing clients or customers and find out what they appreciate about your content, what they value about what you are offering, so that you can tailor future messages to attract more people like them. And then we do a competitive analysis. Who is your competitor? And in terms of nonprofits and engaging people in causes, there's a lot. There's a lot of organizations out there that are competing for that same disposable income, those same donation dollars. So how are you going to differentiate yourself from other people, from other organizations? Why should they donate to your cause and not somebody else's? We already mentioned some of the ethical considerations when designing social media campaigns. That's kind of important, especially when we have political influencers helping us or supporting us through bills or taking part in fundraisers for us or donating dollars to our cause, as well as when you have influencers supporting your cause. Have they been paid to do so, or are they just doing it because it's a cause important to them? So how can organizations ensure their social media campaigns are inclusive and accessible to a diverse audience? What do you think? I'd love to hear from you. Does everybody in Tajikistan speak the same language?
No.
No. So one of the main things that you address is language accessibility, providing content in multiple language to be able to reach other audiences. In some cases, maybe enabling captions or translation tools when you're doing videos. Having diverse representation, we talked about that in our first session about including diverse voices, perspectives, as well as images to be able to relate to your end client. If we're talking about women's issues, there might be a wide range of women that are taking part in the services that she provides for her nonprofit. So if she provides services for teens who are homeless and out on the street, and she provides for mothers who are making low income and can barely pay for her family's expenses, and then maybe we're looking at also women who are older and don't have their spouse is deceased. We need to have both or all three of those profiles in our social media. So each one has a different client avatar that we just talked about, because they're all different. And so your media would approach, one media post isn't going to reach necessarily everyone and resonate with everyone. You'd write one to each avatar. Does that make sense? We also want to make sure we're culturally sensitive, being mindful of cultural norms, sensitivities, and holidays when designing campaign messaging. Holidays is one of the most obvious ones, because typically people are unplugged during holiday times, and so your message is not going to be as effective during those time periods. The next step is to develop your campaign strategy, setting SMART goals. So those SMART goals is having it's an acronym for S, specific, M, measurable, A, attainable, R, realistic, and T, time bound. I don't know if the acronym works in Tajik or not. It does. But that's basically the premise of us setting those SMART goals. Having your target audience set up. We already talked about who is your target audience so that you can tailor your content and your message to those individuals. Having compelling content, creating engaging and relevant content to your end users, including those images, videos, and text. Selecting the right social media platforms. Having consistent branding is also important. In our first session, we talked about branding with colors and fonts and using your logo. That needs to be consistent across your brand. So my business has 12 different workout brands. And while each workout brand has a different name and a logo, all the logos have the same 3 colors in them. And they have they're all a consistent shape. They usually have a swoosh around the outside, and consistent font usage. So even though they say different things, they all are kind of representative of my brand. And then we want to create a call to action. All of your posts should have some sort of clear, compelling call to action, telling users what you want them to do, whether it's visit your website, sign up for a newsletter, make a donation, like and share the post. It doesn't have to be a big ask. Just asking people to like and share the post for improved visibility can be helpful. Once you have that, we can look at creating the content calendar and a timeline for your execution. So I have an example of a launch plan here for a book that I contributed to. This is just part of a 30-day plan, and this was a Google document shared with everyone on my launch team, in which it talks about, there was a graphics folder that we were provided with all the graphics to help support the posts. And then it had instructions of what we were going to do. So some days we went live, other days we did a post, some days we created reels, and what the focus of that post was going to be to meet all of our desired goals. So these components, whether it's posts, lives, getting a launch team or an advocacy team behind you, are going to depend on what you're working on at any given time. Here's another example of a buzz generation timeline. This is only a 10-day timeline. For launching and marketing a product, this could also be launching an event or a fundraising campaign. Starting with the pre-launch page. That's where you get the hype. You create the hype. It's coming. Second task, campaign launch on social media. And there's a series of steps here, from a trailer, or that would be like a mini video, an early deal where people get a lower entry price point, sharing on stories, offering maybe rewards for post sharing. Then you start to take product inquiries on day 4 and then remind people on day 5. Third task, providing those early bird pricing. Notice we have email incorporated in here. We're not doing everything on social media. And when we create that landing pre-launch page on the first step, We're gathering their email information because we said earlier that their email address is really important because then we own the email list. We don't own Facebook. Preparing short videos for marketing. And great things here, a great suggestion here is do behind the scenes video. You don't have to have a finished product or a finished event to post about it. You can show yourself recording, or you can show yourself getting a room ready for an event, which we will be doing tomorrow. That will be one of our social media tasks. Utilizing influencer marketing. This can really be helpful if you get a supporter that has a wide reach to help you, that believes in your cause. Because these can be bloggers, podcasters, or just people that have a huge following for other reasons. Email marketing, you notice there's several emails sent in just a 10-day period. Sometimes you might even have a longer launch. Usually I do a 2-week process. And then considering running paid advertisements towards the launch date.
One question.
Yes.
I do this why do you do advertising only on just the last days?
So the product is launching towards the end. You're creating and stimulating all of the hype in advance, but you're not opening it for sale until the 10th day. So if you send the advertising out too early, like how often have you seen an ad on Facebook for something and you're like, oh, I'll look at that later, and then you can never find the ad?
Yeah.
Has that ever happened to you? So the paid advertising is going to prompt people to click on that link and purchase that item. And so you want to wait until the item is ready to purchase to stimulate that action. Otherwise, you're just wasting your money. That's a great question. Thank you. Creating your engaging content. So the types of content that we've already talked about include images, videos, and infographics. You have to have something compelling to stop the scroll. Looking at writing effective copy and captions. We already have identified our target audience. We want to be clear and concise because remember, people are instantaneous and they want fast snippets of information and they want it to be quick and easy. You also want to create a hook, and oftentimes I use this as my first sentence in my post, that hook. It might be asking them a question or maybe a startling fact or landing them right in a story where they want to read more. I'm looking for an example. So this happened for me today. I've received an offer to be part of the Bold and Beautiful Fashion Tour reality series. That was somebody's post on my Instagram scroll. So that's interesting. That prompts me to read more, right? Who says you can't have it all? That's another example. That's from an ad. Bring love into your heart and then spread it like wildfire. Another start, right? And then I look and the photos are interesting. So I'm going to hit see more to read the rest. So what your hook should basically fit on that first 2 lines of the post so people can see it without having to hit see more. We talked about that call to action is so important. Tell people what you want them to do. Use that emotional appeal. Figure out what their pain point is, what causes them stress in their life, and how can you help? How can you solve that problem for them? It's not what the benefits of my organization are. It's what's in it for me personally. It's different. Features and benefits aren't necessarily what's in it for me. Yes, for the client, the person reading, your end user who's scrolling on their phone, what's in it for them? I can't emphasize enough using visuals, and these don't have to be polished. Although I've done professional photography and things for posts, because we're posting social media and it's very consumable, it doesn't have to be perfect and polished. You can take pictures with your camera either on a tripod with a timer or a selfie, and it'd be just as good as somebody's professional post, and people might resonate more with it. Some things that you want to look at though is the cropping of the photo. What's going on around? What are they looking at? Do they notice the thing that you want them to notice? Is the lighting good? So investing in a small selfie, who has a selfie light? A light? A light to brighten up your face makes a huge difference in the quality of your photos. Other than that, it doesn't have to be professional. We could walk around the college if we had more time today and take pictures in different areas and green spaces and things that would be just as compelling as a professional photo shoot. Then we want to focus on incorporating those storytelling techniques. Again, start with a hook. Show them, don't tell them what they need to know. You want to illustrate it in a different way. Try to create that conflict or tension that they feel moved to take action or something that connects them with your organization. You can also use storytelling to highlight a transformation. We do this a lot in our rescue programs where we see this sad dog that maybe is sick at the shelter and lethargic, and then we'll take a picture 30 days later after they've been in the home with someone and they're healthy and they're happy and they're all smiley. Wow, what a transformation. We could do the same thing with people, how your programs have changed them. And it doesn't even have to be a picture show and tell. It can be a story from the quotes, using some quotes from your end users. Include personal anecdotes, stories about yourself or people in your organization, or stories from your clients again. Your story should have a specific structure, and it again should be concise, because people aren't going to read 10 paragraphs on Facebook. That might be good for a long blog post, but chop it into smaller, more digestible bites for social media, and end with some sort of resolution. End with that call to action. We also want to encourage that our storytelling sparks engagement. So maybe at the end of the story, sometimes you'll see people write something like, can anyone resonate with this? Or has this happened to you? And you stimulate conversation with your users. We talked earlier in one of our sessions about hashtags. For me, some of my business hashtags or examples are on this page. For a product or service, I have a workout on demand channel. So hashtag workout on demand. Hashtag healthy fitness life coach. That's my brand hashtag. So I use that in everything for my fitness. Every post will have that. Then you have a niche hashtag, where you fit in the industry. So I resonate with moms who have boys, because I have 4 boys. Healthy fit mom. I do exercise rehab, so I use those. And then you could use seasonal hashtags. If I'm doing outside workout, hashtag it's cold outside, or if I did one yesterday, hashtag humid and muggy. Pro tip, limit use of hashtags over 5 million posts. So if the hashtag has over 5 million posts, your one post is going to get lost in the sea of posts. Ideally, you want to have things that have a reasonable amount of posts, maybe 100,000 to 250,000 tags, you're less likely to get lost in the sea of posting. Does that make sense? If 5 million people posted with the same hashtag, what's the chance that someone's going to find your one post? 1 in 5 million, right? But if there's only 100,000 and they do a search for your hashtag winter body, you have a 1 in 100,000%, 1 in 100,000 chance of being seen.
So I have a
Yes.
question. So you mean to make your hashtags unique, specifically
Not necessarily unique, because then no one's going to know those hashtags. So there are hashtag, if you Google top hashtags for women's empowerment, you can look up and see what some of the current hashtags. You can use ones that are already created, but I have certain ones like healthy fitness life coach that are for my business, that most of the posts, if you search that, is probably me. And so that's kind of the way I catalog my brand.
So yeah, I mean, if to create your own branded.
Yeah, you could have like one, but most of the ones that you use should be ones that other people are using too. Instagram carousel performs better. That means you have more than one picture. I don't know why it performs better, but it does. Pick the best photo for number 1, so it draws people in to scroll through the pictures. Start with a caption, just like in Facebook, that first line, that hook, attention grabbing 10-word caption. This can also be a question, and then always finish with that call to action. Reels, we talked about these already this morning, how we can use those short videos in Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and those are getting huge amounts of hits. If you look at my Keller Price Fitness YouTube, some of my cooking videos that are only like 30 seconds, which I created with not video, but actual photos for the most part. Some of them went viral. I had like over 900,000 hits in a couple hours on a cooking video that I made while I was cooking dinner. So it doesn't have to be a fancy video. Again, lighting is everything. Figuring out where to position the camera. And it can be simple. But one thing that annoys me is those videos that people go like this and the bubbles come up.
What's the TikTok video?
Let's not point, okay? Let's do something more creative than just pointing at air and adding little bubbles of content. Don't forget to tag products that you're using so that they can reshare your video. Even if you're doing a video for a charitable cause and you're wearing like a sweater that you got from a certain company, you can tag them and you're likely to get more hits on your video. Make sure you have interesting topics. I have a running list of topics I can talk about. So if I feel like I want to just pull out my phone at the cafe and set it up, I have a topic headline and I can come up with 3 to 5 points that I'm going to make in my video, and I go live and get that video cross-posted. Again, it doesn't have to be super polished, but you need to be concise. So I always have a little notepad and I write down a few notes of key things I want to make sure I cover to keep me on target. Is it recreatable? So when people are doing a mix on Instagram of reels, it has to be portrait, not landscape for a mix reel. So keep that in mind. If you want people to remix, it has to be portrait versus the landscape. Add music. I would pick ones that are most popular for more views, because that's another way people are going to find it. And share it everywhere. You can share your Instagram reel on Facebook, on YouTube Shorts, on TikTok. all with that one piece of content. I already mentioned those live videos. It's so important to plan what you're going to talk about. Someone doesn't want to have chit chat for like 2 minutes before you get to the meat of what you're trying to say. They're going to get bored and move on before you share your message. So stay focused. Talk like everybody's watching. Another peeve of mine is when I go on a live video and they're just chit-chatting like, oh, we're going to wait till some more people log on, and you're waiting and they're not really saying anything. Act like everyone's already on. If you've posted in advance that you're going live at such and such time, try to get some of your friends to log in to support you if they can. But if no one's on, act like there's 1,000 people watching you. You're still going to get people on the replay. Don't make people wait for like 2 minutes before you start your message. I love stories as an easy way to get, a lot of people are scrolling through those quite a bit. So it's a great way to create interaction with your users with polls, surveys, or questions. So for example, if I post for my rescue a picture of my cat snuggling with a dog, and you could have the little, I could put a little caption, isn't this the sweetest? And it has a little scroll bar that people can like say that they like it. People are going to do that. And when they do that and they interact with your post, it helps your algorithm. They'll engage with you. It doesn't have to be something that is complicated, like click on my website. It can be something easy like a yes/no poll. Those are really easy to create as well. So post a reel, and then you can also share it to stories because it will link to the full reel. Use product links. I do this a lot in stories to drive traffic to a specific item or an event or a fundraiser. And don't forget to cross-post to Facebook. So what's a nonprofit that you guys are working with right now? Someone other than you, because you already shared about your project, the women's project.
Not dealing now with the nonprofit organization. I had an experience. We had 2 granted projects, but now it's like a commercial. We are making meetings, we are conducting courses, and the audience is buying them.
Oh, awesome.
So, and so where are you working? That must be educational programs.
Educational programs. So you could do some stories related around some of the themes of those educational programs to show people what the program is going to be talking about or highlights from the program. What am I going to learn if I attend this program? Some ideas could be highlighting a new post, a store link and a discount, event countdowns. I do those a lot. Resharing content, sneak peeks, tagging customers, asking questions, doing polls, getting feedback, work in progress or behind the scenes. And then don't forget to go and add some of those stories from Instagram into your highlights. That's the only way to get things in your highlights. It has to be on your story first. You can always go back in and add those later. Finally, we want to measure and analyze our campaign's performance, whatever our goal was. And looking at the 3 main points or metrics to track our reach. And particularly, we want to look at organic reach, meaning people that you didn't have to pay to see your stuff. If we can grow that number, that's beneficial to our organizations. Engagement, what did the users do? Did they like? Did they comment? Did they share? Did they bookmark? And then conversion. Conversion is, did they take action in the way that you wanted them to? So if you sent them to a website to donate, did they click? How many clicks? How many people went to that setting? There's a lot of tools for social media analytics. I would start with the free ones that you already have. For Facebook, the Meta Business Suite, the analytics on Instagram. If you use a posting tool, they will also often provide analytics for you. And then based on your performance, you can adjust your strategies based on that data. If you had a post that went really well and you didn't expect it, like that cooking post that I mentioned, that made me do a lot more short cooking posts. Because I'm like, oh, this is how I get a lot more followers, is who are outside of the people who subscribe to my channel, is through that short video. So evaluating your effectiveness, this is an example from Instagram. You can look at your reach for specific posts and looking at that visually, okay, what got a lot of hits? So based on that, okay, this was visually appealing. Was it something about what kind of content I had, to try to replicate that with a different post? Looking at what audience I reached with a specific posts and how many accounts. See, this is from Instagram. It tells you how many accounts you reached and how many engaged. You can also drill down to find the top cities, country, age, or gender, so that you can craft your posts more effectively. And then at the end of the week, look at your performance. How did you do? And this is for my Rotary Club page. This particular week, we had a increase in our reach based on posts that we had. So I would go back and look at the engagement of the posts that we had to try to replicate or see what was happening for better effectiveness. Here's another example looking at Instagram posts for my business, looking at reach for specific posts, how many people liked, how many people added a sticker, so that you can really get a lot of good information at no cost with the tools. So think in your mind of any examples of social media campaigns that backfired or were poorly executed, and what we can learn from these failures, because there's always going to be trial and error. Hopefully you don't invest a lot of money in an ad campaign and it flops. But looking at how we can best reach our audience. I have two examples. Pepsi's Live for Now campaign. They released a commercial featuring Kendall Jenner participating in a protest. And it got a lot of backlash because this was during Black Lives Matter. And it was deemed to be kind of offensive because people in that community felt like their plight and their protests were not being taken seriously because it was kind of light and airy, the video. So here are this is some of the backlash on Twitter about this campaign. Another social media fail was McDonald's McD Stories campaign in 2012. They launched a hashtag campaign that they were trying to crowdsource their customer base to say all these great stories about McDonald's. And it totally backfired because people use the hashtag to trash McDonald's. And here are some examples on here. People talked about food poisoning and terrible quality of the food. So you have to be prepared that social media, there's user-generated content. If you make somebody mad, they're probably gonna trash you on social media. And to be able to have a contingency plan and deal with it with grace so it doesn't impact your brand. We do not have time for the group activity today, but utilizing this information, you should be able to develop a social media campaign plan, including objectives, your target audience, content strategy, and metrics for success. And then look at the social media that you've already produced and identify areas for improvement and create better posts for your given campaign objective. So some other assignments for you: finish refining your customer avatar. Who is your client? Remember, be specific. You can have more than one customer avatar. Finish your hashtag lists for your organization and upload that to your boards. And plan and create content for next week. Remember, 4 relevant, 1 repost, and 1 promotional or call to action to sell or invest or donate money. 2 of your relevant contents should be reels reposted on stories. And a bonus exercise would be to go live once this week and get out of your comfort zone.